Hello and welcome to Friday STEAM with the Warren County Library System. My name is Sandy Roberts and I'm the Makerspace Coordinator for the Warren County Library. Each week I've been bringing you science, technology, engineering, art, math, and making activities that you can do right in your own home. This is the last one for the summer reading series, so I will not be seeing you next Friday, but check the calendar for September because I will be back then with more fun projects. We're going to continue online for the foreseeable future, but in the meantime, you can still join me here on Facebook and we'll still be able to have some fun. So I am following along on my cell phone, so if you have any questions, just feel free to ask. I'm going to make sure I have the volume off because I always make that mistake. So if you have any questions, just feel free to ask at any time. So today, a lot of ums today. Sorry about that. So our project today is one of my favorite summertime projects. And those of you that have ever joined me at the Belvedere Pool for Science and Swim, you probably know this project. So this is our soda bottle paddle boat. And it's a really fun thing to build. First off, you get to play with a lot of buoyancy because you can see it's got these two pontoons on the side. So it's a fun project to build just for that. It's always great to get out the duct tape and make it really colorful. I was very simple, but usually kids are covering the whole thing with all kinds of different duct tape and it looks really neat. But it also demonstrates a really cool idea, which is the transfer of potential to kinetic energy. And that is done, sorry, mine is getting a little damaged. I've been playing with it all afternoon. That's done with our paddle in the back. We use a rubber band, okay? So when we talk about mechanical energy, what we often talk about is potential versus kinetic energy. Now you've probably heard these terms before. Potential energy is stored energy. It's energy waiting to be unleashed. So like I just did with this rubber band, right? I just twisted this rubber band up. That's now got a lot of tension in it. That tension stores potential energy. So I've taken the energy of my movement of my hands and now I'm storing it in that rubber band as potential energy. When that energy is released, okay, it becomes kinetic energy. And that's the energy of motion, okay? And that's really what we want. By using our paddle on our rubber band, okay, and I'm just going to show you this because I think it'll come across a little bit easier than the whole boat. If I twist that rubber band, right, use the motion of my hands, transfer that energy as potential energy into the rubber band and let it sit, and then it becomes kinetic energy and moves our paddle. That paddle moving pushes the water, right? It creates a force, which is a push or pull. So that motion of the paddle creates a force on the water and propels our boat forward through the water. Okay? So it's a pretty neat way to play with some mechanical engineering, play with some forces in motion, play with energy, and still have a really fun toy to use in the pool or the lake, or even if you have a river or your bathtub. So what do we need for today? Let's get started with our materials. Okay. First, and I dropped my ruler. Oh dear. Got it. Okay. First and foremost, you're going to need a soda bottle. Make sure you wash it out, and it's best if it has a top. If it doesn't, you'll have to cover that with some duct tape. So one soda bottle. You're also going to need, for your pontoons on the side, 2 disposable water bottles, also with their tops or covered with duct tape. You generally want to make sure that they are the same size and shape, okay? If they're different, you can kind of get a lopsided boat. You don't want that. All right. You're going to need some duct tape, different colors, or all one color, whatever you like. I think I'm going to go with orange for this one. You are going to need at least 2 pencils. I'm using pencils. You can also try bamboo skewers. You might have to duct tape a couple of them together to make them stronger. Chopsticks are really great for this. Wooden dowels if you have them sitting around. Even just some nice straight sticks from the backyard will totally work for this. But you need at least 2 to form that kind of extra chassis off the back that we can put our paddles on, okay? So at least 2 pencils, and I say at least 2 because sometimes as kids are prototyping, they like to attach more than one on the back to extend this, and I'll show you why later, but you need to have enough space for your paddle to be able to move in there, so sometimes you want extra length. You're gonna need at least one rubber band, 2 is even better. And you need something to make your paddles out of. So you have a lot of options. You can use like foam board or any of that plastic corrugated cardboard if you happen to have it around. If you have like a old yard sale sign or something like that, that works really well. But typically I use old takeout containers, plastic takeout containers. You can try certain plastic plates might work, but anything, that's it's fairly stiff and kind of thick. You don't want anything too thin. So I've got a kind of a variety of different just old tops, like this one my dog got at, so it's all chewed up. So those work really well. Some are more brittle than others though, so be careful. Make sure you have some goggles because you don't know until you're cutting it just how brittle it might be. So you're gonna need something like that to make your paddles. And then of course, a pair of scissors for your tools, a ruler because we wanna make sure everything is lined up right. You see how I've got everything nice and even there? Ruler, and a Sharpie or some other marker to be able to mark what you're working on. And that's all we really need. So this one is sometimes a little more supplies than some other projects, but that's okay. And of course you can substitute in all kinds of different ways, get creative about it. All right, let us get started on our build. I'm gonna switch cameras. Okie dokies. Here we go. Sorry I don't have the camera looking at me today, but I had some technical difficulties. So we're just making the best of it, right? Great. Okay, I'm putting on my glasses so my eyes are protected. And we're gonna get started. Ooh, things falling everywhere. So I've got my bottle. And the first thing I wanna do is place my pencils on the back of the bottle. Let me make sure this is as wide out as it can go. Yep. Now, when we're placing these, a couple of things. This is gonna be the front of your boat, and this is the back of your boat. Now you can see that you've got these kind of indents on the bottom of a soda bottle. You don't want to place your pencils near that because when you put the rubber band on, it pulls the pencils together, and that means that they're gonna get kind of pulled into that. You wanna kind of use the shape of the bottle as much as you can to keep that from bending. You also kind of wanna put your pencils kind of far back because you want as much space here as possible for your paddles to be able to move, okay? Now, that can cause a little bit of an issue because you want to have enough tape to hold it down. So it takes a little bit of playing to get it just the way that you want it, but that's okay. Where's my tape? All right, nice piece of tape, ready to go. You may need to use scissors for your duct tape. That is perfectly okay. So again, let me show you what I'm thinking here. I want to make sure that when I put my pencils on, I put them both basically the same. So I can kind of see there's a line here, and I'm going to line up the back of my pencil with that line so that both of my pencils get put on the same way. It's a line kind of left over, I think, from the label. Okay, so here we go. Pencil number 1. Gonna make sure that you put that tape in nice and tight along the pencil so it's stuck in really nicely. And push this down. There you go. Make sure that's on really good. So you can see how I pushed that down along the pencil and along the back. You don't want any wobbliness in your pencil. Okay? Now we want to flip this over. And we're going to try and get, and I know they're not exactly even, so this is where it gets a little challenging. Because you want to have your sticks as even as you can. Get myself another piece of tape, but you want to make use of that bump as best you can too. Okay. Again, I'm going to line it up right there. Whoop, I got my tape stuck. Okay. I'm having trouble with duct tape today. It's kind of hot in here, and I think it's all kind of just getting sticky. So here we go again. We're going to make sure that we push that down along the sides and get it stuck on there really, really well. Okay. Because this is kind of the most structural part. So you can kind of see, make sure that they're pretty level, right? On really well. Okay, now I've got a bit of an angle there, so I'm a little concerned with that, but I think we're going to go with it and we'll see what happens. Okay? there's a lot of prototyping, a lot of tweaking that you can do with this engineering, and it may not be perfect the first time. That's part of why we're using really inexpensive materials here, right? Like mostly just soda bottles and stuff that you'd be recycling anyway. Okay, that looks pretty good. Now the next thing I'm going to do is I'm going to attach my 2 pontoons, because they actually help provide some support as well for our sticks here. So I'm going to kind of position them like that. Again, I'm kind of looking at what can I do to make them nice and even. I'm going to get a nice big long piece of tape. Now, you don't want to put your pontoons under your sticks, because that's going to lift your paddles out of the water. You kind of want to put them even with your sticks so that they support that motion. I'm going to wrap my bottle with some duct tape and kind of get it nice and even. And there we go. On that goes, just like that. Now, let's see if we can do that on the other side. And again, it doesn't have to be perfect. You can always tweak it later. You can always perfect it as you go. Let's see. And the other thing is too, you can use like regular gray duct tape for this part if you want, and then go in later and add more color to your creation. I'm just kind of, like I said, I'm having some duct tape issues today. And I'm lining this up. And again, this is a good opportunity to break out your ruler if you're not sure, or you don't feel comfortable just kind of eyeballing it. Get that ruler out, measure it, make sure that you've got it just where you want it. Now, I did not pull off a big enough piece of tape, so I'm just going to grab a bit more. No problem with that. A little more tape like that, but you do want to get them nice and level. That's the most important thing. The goal here is to make sure that our boat is going to float nice and level in the water when it's there, so that our paddles are kept nice and level. That way they can do the maximum work. Now these you may end up adjusting to have the boat float in different areas of the water, because you want as much of the panel to be under the water as possible, right? So you can also adjust it by adding water to these to pull the boat down a little bit if you need to. But that's, again, that's going to be prototyping. Okay, I'm going to put this aside for now, and we're going to take out our plastic. Now this is, I know that this happens to be a little bit on the brittle side. So I'm just going to start by taking the, I've got kind of an edge off here. My goal is to get a nice rectangle out of it. You can see mine cracked already on me. So this is a kind of a brittle plastic. I'm not sure I'm going to be able to use that. Yeah, I'm going to have to go to my backup plan. See, if it cracks like that, I'm going to have a tough time getting 2 nice solid rectangles out of it. So I'm just going to go ahead and try this. And this seems to be a little more, got a little more flex to it. So it's not cracking as much, which is good. And I'm just going to go ahead and I'm just going to, since I've got kind of a natural shape there, I'm going to go ahead and use that, because you want your paddles to be as close in size and shape as you can. Now, if you were using, say, some foam board or something like that, you could actually get out the ruler and measure 2 nice rectangles. And the way you would do that is you would measure the distance between the pencils on the back of your boat and use that as a guide for how wide they could be and how long they could be. So I'm just going to take this second one. Let's see. And I'm going to try and cut it to the same size. Oh no! See, that's why we wear goggles, because that plastic went flying. And you just don't know. That's why, you know, if you can, protect your eyes. Luckily, these are big pieces, so it's not too much of a problem. Now, depending on what kind of plastic you're using, you may need to actually use a little masking tape or duct tape on the edges, because sometimes they can get a little sharp, especially when they're thin. And we don't want any cut fingers. That's no fun. All right, so now I have 2 nice, basically matching pieces of plastic for my paddle. And to put them together, it's actually pretty easy. You're just gonna I'm gonna actually do a quick measure on this, right? And it looks like 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Okay, so this is about 2 inches, a little over 2.5 inches. So I'm just gonna go ahead and mark my center, okay? I have marks on my mat, as you can see, that mark off the lines. So I'm just going to mark where my center is on both of these, and you would use your ruler to do this to make sure that you know where center is, because we want to cut a slit in each one directly across. And you can even, if you want to, get your ruler, you know, be nice and neat about this. Right, and we can make a nice line like that. Make sure that they're going to be good cuts. There we go. Excellent. And then we're just going to cut right into the center like that. I'm going to do that on both of them. And then to put our paddle together, we just slide one piece over the other and just kind of push them until they're together. Now, because my plastic isn't perfectly flat, you can see it's a little bit, it's not quite straight, but that should be fine. Now, some folks really like at this point to put a little tape to hold it together. I don't usually find it's necessary, but that's up to you. If you want to put a little tape there to hold it all together, you absolutely can do so. But this looks pretty sturdy to me. So I'm going to go ahead and get my soda bottle, and I'm going to take my rubber band and I'm going to put it towards the back. Now you see what's happening here? It's going to pull that together. So when you're planning your paddle, you don't want it to be too wide. And this one fits really nice. Of course, the counterbalance to that, and this is something that you kind of have to work with, is that it may not be big enough to move the entire weight of your boat. So that's part of the engineering and prototyping that you kind of have to play with. Now, as you can see, this will work with one rubber band, but I really like to put a second rubber band on here to kind of keep them in place. Now, 2 rubber bands means you get more of a squeeze. So you kind of have to decide for yourself what makes the most sense. And that's going to be, again, dependent on your materials and how you decided to design it. So I'm going to go ahead and twist my paddle, give it, and you can see why sometimes you like to give that a little bit of tape or a staple, and there we go. So good, it's working in general. Sometimes when you get this kind of bowing in, like I said, you can go with removing an umbrella. I'm thinking about Umbrella Academy that I want to watch when I get home because I'm on vacation after today. So sometimes you might want to go with one rubber band just to keep that apart. The other thing you can do is get engineering, right? You can slide a second pencil in here to keep them separated. Sometimes we will actually build kind of a cross brace situation in there, okay, to keep them apart. And that's another way to do it. So there's a lot of different approaches you can take to making sure this is nice and sturdy for your paddle. But I think today I'm just going to go with the just use one rubber band approach. And I think that's going to work just fine for me. And there you go. Just turn, turn, turn. And when I release, oh, the other one was working just a little better. Maybe this blue plastic isn't the best. It's a little wobbly. I like a thicker plastic than this. There we go. So that's the basic build. All right, come on over here and we can talk. All right, so that's basically how you make this paddle boat. Now, as you can see, there's a lot of tweaking that you can do to make it better. So as I said, the position of your pontoons, because you can see your paddle. Do you see the placement of that paddle? You want to make sure that this whole thing is going to sink into the water enough that at least half that paddle is going to be in the water. So adjusting your pontoons is going to help. Sometimes you just flip the whole boat over, right? And you may be able to get a better traction because you need that paddle to be forcing the water to move. Now, the other thing you might discover is depending on which way you turn, clockwise or counterclockwise, your rubber band, when you twist it, that's going to change the direction of your boat. So play with that and see if you can discover which way you want to turn it to make sure that your boat goes forward. Okay, so that is definitely a practical concern. I like this one better, the one I did earlier. It seems to work a little better, but it's a little wide. Anyway, you can see I could spend all day playing with this, making it just perfect. And of course, the other fun thing you can do is decorate it with all kinds of great tapes and make it look really awesome. Even if your paddle is giving you trouble, this is still a really fun boat to play with in the water. It makes a great toy. So I encourage you to give this engineering project a try, and I'd love to see what you create. If you post it on social media, share it with the hashtag #WarrenLib. We'd love to see your photos. Or I do still have my, oh, and I don't know why it is showing every single thing here. Who knows? Technology is not being my friend today. But down here you can see Padlet, okay? Padlet.com/Sandy889/WCL Makers. And that is a safe place that you can post pictures of your work and comment on others, and it's moderated so people can't just get in there and post anything, okay? So it's a safe place. Now, I do want to remind you, even though today is the last day of summer reading, can you believe it? That summer went so fast. We do have more fun events coming up in September and October. Even though we're still probably going to be doing online programming, let me tell you, I was in the meeting for October, and we have some really exciting stuff coming for Halloween and things like that. So make sure that you check back on that calendar regularly to see what new events we're adding. Well, it's been a great summer. I hope that you're all staying safe and staying healthy and making the best of these beautiful days we have. School will be starting soon, so I hope that you all have a great back to school or back to homeschool. I will be here to continue having fun with you. Okay, I guess that's it. Signing off for the summer. What a weird summer reading this was. But I miss you all. I can't wait to be back in the makerspace, and we'll see you soon. All right, take care. Bye.